It's Daryl as a service, good now, right now, wherever and whenever you are. I'm into videography with mobile phones, as some of you may know, and I am hoping to try and start putting together some tips around how to tell your stories with mobile. One of the things that I'd started to use over the last few months was the Moment lenses. These have been around for some time, and you can attach them to your phone using one of their great cases, and it can click in there and set it up. Now, I had an iPhone 10, and I'd bought the case and the lenses to go with, and was enjoying some photography and video with that. And I decided to buy an 11 Pro. I was going to buy the same case for my new 11 Pro, and then had discovered that some of the things that I use for recording, such as a DJI Osmo Mobile 3, that the case was slightly larger and a bit heavier for the gimbal to cope with. I know that you can push it into the right positions and try and get it to counterbalance without adding an additional weight, but what I was finding was it was still touching the buttons and pushing and making it do various things rather than being able to actually use it. So I decided when I saw that they had released the Moment Filmmaker case, that it is specially made to be lower profile, lower weight, but still be able to attach the lenses. And here it is. It's really, really, really thin, but you can see that the lenses that will attach to the standard lens and the zoom lens are there. They have said that the lens, there's no intention at all to attach a lens to the wide angle lens, because the 11 Pro's wide angle lens is so wide that it will actually pick up on the edges of a lens that you might want to use. Actually, it was, they were saying that when you put it on there, you can actually see the edges of the lens itself. So within the lens, you can see some of the black. So yeah, they're not even going to try with that. But this case is beautiful. Really low profile. In fact, so low profile that when the phone is in the case, then it is actually protruding a little bit out of the case to use. But what you'll notice is that it's quite cut out, so that if you are using I think it was the remote controls for DJI drones and the like, that you are going to have a nice piece there. And I also like this because it still allows me to plug in a lightning jack mic, which I have for the Rode lightning jack mic. So great case, and what I want to do is just take you through putting some of this together and looking at how this all fits together. They did have some delays with producing the case. I guess that it's all about trying to make this plastic as durable and as strong as possible, so that it's still going to mount the lenses, but not after wear and tear be bending and twisting too much. Although I will take some time and take some care even as I put in the lenses on. So let's just readjust what we've got here in terms of a setup. I'm going to just reposition the camera and try and put it down so that you can see the kit as I am using it. I'll just push this over to here. All right. Now about that will probably do it. Awesome. Okay, I'll just poke that cable out of the way. Alright, so first of all, the case of course came in Moment's famous packaging. Very cool packaging there, so it does have instructions there and a bit of detail about what the case is made of, how thin it is, and the texture that you can use to grip it, where the lenses will actually fit. And that you've got a cutout there for when you're using it for drone controllers. So that's cool. The cases themselves usually come with a placeholder, I guess, to show off something of the photography that you can take with the Moment lenses. And then as you take that out, you have some instructions on the back, just to show you a bit more about how to mount the phone into that case. I did have my 11 Pro in a genuine Apple silicon case. I do like the silicon cases, especially for taking photographs and videos that even with slightly sweaty hands, and of course the summer weather that's coming up here in New Zealand, that you've got a good grip. So that's why it's important that with the Moment case that we do have something of a grippy kind of surface here. This is all still part of the plastic case. It's not leather or anything to try and give that grip. Right, so let's place that case into, or rather the phone into the case. And in typical fashion, I like to try and get that up the top there. Just snap that in. So it's actually quite an easy fit. Yeah, I do find some cases are quite stiff to get the phones in, but that's a great fit. And now you see that it's very thin. Phone is it's so low profile that you might be able to see that the edge of the phone is just protruding out there. So I wouldn't, I'm not the sort of person that likes to place my phone down on the desk like this and say, look, I'm not taking any calls, but I have this phone. I would prefer to leave that up or leave it in my pocket if I'm not using it, right? So that's, the phone itself, that's great. Now my lenses, let's just pop this over here. I do have a couple of lenses that I had been using, and I've been patiently waiting for this case. So was really looking forward to it coming along. We have a wide angle lens here, the 18mm lens. So that's pretty gorgeous looking lens there. And we've also got a 58mm. Let's have a look there. 58mm, that's right. Yep. So that's for a slightly more zoom on that. So you can place this lens on top of the double zoom on the iPhone, and you'll actually get 4 times zoom in a sense with the magnification. So we'll actually go through it and demonstrate clicking a lens into the case, and this is where I am kind of careful here because the plastic is really quite thin. On the other case that I had, slightly thicker, there was a bit more of a rubber buffer around the edges there, and so because the plastic was thicker, it was quite easy to just click in without too much care. But this one still feels tough and strong, but you do have to take care as you're putting it in. I can see some situations where if you're not properly threading it up, then it could eventually contribute to twisting that plastic. So with the lenses, you line up the line there on the lens itself, and there is a slight little line. I can't quite really get it to, there it is, you can see it in just slightly off in the light there. That's what we line it up with, just as a reminder to where it all fits. And we're doing this with the wide angle lens, yep. So we will drop that into here, and this is where we do take some care. There we go, so it is twisting around, that's fine there, that's great. Alright, so that's the lens on. Now I do tend to put the lens on and then take the cover off, and this means that as I'm positioning it, I'm not putting any kind of fingerprints and gunk all over it, but it's all pristine, clean. I do intend to get a brush as well to be able to clean that up. So the lens is on. Let's see if we can get our AirPlay working here. Yep. And we'll just change the scene there to our air server. Good-o. Right. So what does this mean for using the phone for photos? Now just taking a moment here too, I use Filmic Pro, and Filmic have put out a new camera app called First Light. So I had purchased that just to give it a go over the standard camera app, and I have been using Pro Camera for some time too. But here is First Light, and if we just take our lens cap off, of course, and we'll fire First Light up. First Light allows you to choose between the different lenses. So at the moment we're using our standard lens, and we can shift it to the lens above that on the screen, but we'll have to of course move the Moment lens over. Now just to give you an idea here, this is its widescreen lens, and as I take that off and we twist it just around here, back to align those lines again, off it goes, and there you go, that's it without the lens. So quite a difference in terms of angle. And you might say, well, why would you do that if you've already got a wide angle lens down here, so super wide here. There we go, it's actually built into part of the phone. Why would I use this? But it is getting a slightly different angle. It's not as wide, so we're getting I guess two versions of a wide lens. This is super wide, I would say, and then if we're using the Moment lens, then we're getting a slightly narrower view, not as wide. So we'll go back to our standard lens and then just drop that on to our top slot there and turn that around. You can imagine doing this in the field that you don't really want to rush this, so it pays to have the lens that you're planning to use all ready to go. Now what would this look like if I changed it over to our zoom lens there? So we'll put that in there, and you can see that it's already seen the edge of the lens itself. So this is what we need to do. We'll just shift that down to our second slot, so that's on zoom right now. And if we drop that into here, again carefully turn that on, and you're seeing that now we've got zoom, but it's also slightly wider. Right, so that's you got that zoom effect, but a wider angle. We'll take that off again. You can see. Let me turn that around. There we go. So we're back to zoom. So interesting kind of effect. Now the next thing we really want to show is looking at how this operates with Filmic Pro, and then attaching it to the gimbal. Now this app that I'm using, the what was it called again? It was called First Light. Yeah, so that one doesn't really work so well with the screen capture that I'm using, air service. So if I hold it horizontal or vertical, it doesn't change that around. But as we go back into Filmic Pro, so Filmic Pro, here we go with our, let's just drop it back into our standard lens camera. Yep, no, we're good. And then as we turn that around to horizontal, that's of course the landscape way that we like to take our videos. That's the way I prefer anyway. So we'll get back to this position and showing the difference that this lens makes. This is your standard view, and it's only probably about 20 centimeters away from the laptop edge, but we'll position this lens back in, and we'll drop that into there. Take that off. Right, and about the same position, and you're seeing quite a wide view with this lens. Now, as I was saying before, this is great. I can have this lens on this thinner cover, but the whole purpose of the thinner cover is so that it fits nicely into gimbals, so that you're not having to counterbalance it with the various things. Let me just push this over to here. No. Let's just swap it over to our webcam. Right, so the goal here is to be able to put this phone into the case, rather into the gimbal, and have it nicely balanced. What we were having to do with a full-size case was that we would have to really push it over here, over the top of various buttons, and with the other case the buttons protruded a bit, so what was happening was the edge of the gimbal was pushing into the volume button and into the power button, and then that was triggering off all sorts of unintended effects. But what we'll do with this, and what I've found as I've experimented with it before recording, was that it's about trying to find that position, that optimal position. And I found that with this thinner case on, I can get it to balance quite a long way. So we'll see that position there. The other thing that's important with the Osmo Mobile 3 is that you can also balance it in the other direction. So rather than just pushing your phone backwards and forwards from left to right, it's also this grip. You can push it up and down as well to help balance it correctly. So let's have a go at that. Now, what I did find the optimal position was that it was over covering these buttons, but because of the size of the case now, it's not actually pushing on volume buttons and power buttons and triggering things off, but instead it is actually helping to balance it. And I know there's a bit of adjustment still to make that work. I mean, I could push that down and up and sort of try and get it reasonably equal. But let's push this back to, or put the webcam back to a position where we can demonstrate the balancing effect of the gimbal and take advantage of that. Let's put this up here. Okay, I might just drop this over here instead. Alright, yep, very authentic. Okay. So you see with the gimbal that I've got in, that I've pushed it right over to the side here. It is just over the power button and just over the volume buttons underneath as well. And what I will do is I face it towards myself. We'll just unfold the gimbal, which is what you don't sort of power it on while it's sitting in that locked in position. It needs to face yourself as well, of course. And what you want to notice here too is that the phone actually, whoops, let's just try this over here again. It does go quite a ways over the pivoting angle of the gimbal arm. So interestingly enough, we'll try and get that to balance. Let's see if we can get this into the shot. I'll just throw this on. The default position for the Osmo Mobile 3 is that it goes into portrait mode. In my early experiences as I was trying this out, and I didn't have it quite balanced, it was still tipping a ways over to the right and then just throwing a wobbly, quite literally. It would fail. But what I'm finding here is that I've got the position that I want, and I'm able to use it. So it does maintain that balance, and I don't hear the gimbal motor overworking itself. It might still be quite a ways back. Now let's just try this out with our air server. Okay. Probably not the best demo. I'll hide myself behind this. That's all right. But you can see as we twist it around that it is panning nicely. Do remember that I'm using Air Server to capture my screen. It's not plugged into anything, but it is, and that sort of gives it a jittery feel as it's projecting my image off my phone in a wireless fashion. But you are seeing the gimbal's working quite well, right? And it's got that full Moment lens on. So it's all about finding that position and making sure that it is well balanced. So going back right over to here, yep, nicely balanced. Good view of my of my equipment, looking directly into the key light there up at the top. So that's cool. I'm pretty happy with that. Again, knowing how this needs to be balanced. But the Phone Maker Pro, the Moment Filmmaker case for the iPhone 11 Pro is low profile enough. It is light. You can balance it. It sits nicely in your gimbal. It's not in a weird kind of balancing fashion there. It is actually nicely gripped into there. It mounts the lenses nicely. Do take care as you put those lenses in, because it is a thinner plastic. Just go carefully, put it in there, and you'll get some good long life out of this case, I would say. This is why Moment took some time, a few more moments than they expected, to be able to get this case ready for their customers, so that it's going to be good for making films. All right, so that's Daryl as a Service. I am covering Microsoft 365 content and productivity. I'm a user adoption specialist, but I'm also right into helping people tell their stories with mobiles. So if you like my content, then do follow me, subscribe, like, and all those other things. I'm not that pro really, but I do like to help people tell their stories. So yeah, keep in touch, and let me know what you think about the Moment lenses and cases, and if you've got a filmmaker case, tell me what you think and how it works out with your gimbals. Catch you again. Bye for now.